Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for this video, I am going to be showing you what my feeding tube looks like, how I set up my feeds, how the tube stays inside me, so like all the mechanics of my feeding tube. I just did a video talking about frequently asked questions about my feeding tube, so you can also watch that one as well if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoy this video. So this is what my feeding tube looks like. This is the bottom of my rib cage, so it's just over towards the middle. This type of tube has 3 different types of ports. This is the gastric port, and that is how I can access my stomach. This one on the front is the jejunal port, and that is how I access my intestines. And then this port here on the side is how I access the balloon, which I will be talking about later in the video. So yeah, that is my tube. This is what it looks like when I'm disconnected from my feeds. When I do have my feeds connected, looks like this. So barely even sticks out of my body, just by a little bit. And when I have my shirt down, don't even know it's there. So now I'm going to show you what the tube looks like on the inside of my body. This is a clean tube. It has never been used before, never in my body. I just have this as an extra for this purpose of showing people how my tube works. So like I said, I explained, I have the jejunal port, the gastric port, and the balloon port. So the jejunal is to access my intestines, and that's where I put my feeds into. The gastric is to access my stomach, and that's where I put my medications in. And then this balloon port is where I access the balloon, which I will explain now. So you might be wondering, how does this tube stay inside you? It is very common for the tubing on the outside of my body to get caught on like a doorknob or something, and the tube will pull. So you would think that the tube will come out, but actually this part of the tube right here is a balloon, and basically once the tube is placed inside of you, the person placing the tube will have some water, typically in this syringe. They'll put it in the balloon port, and the balloon inflates. So this is how the balloon stays in your body. So now if the tube gets pulled, the balloon will stop this from coming out of your body. And then when they are changing your tube, or if you're taking your tube out, hooray, then same thing. You would obviously want to deflate the balloon before taking it out of your stomach, because that would be extremely painful. And yeah. So that's how the balloon works. And now I'm going to show you how this tube is a 2-in-1, because it looks like just one straight tube. And it's a little confusing. I personally didn't know how the tube worked myself until I had this one, and I was able to play around with it. So it's actually pretty cool. So I'm going to use a little bit of my formula and a syringe to show you how it works. I'm just going to take a little bit, and first, I'm going to show you how the gastric port works. So I don't know if you can tell in the video, but right here, there are 2 little holes, and that's where the liquid from the gastric port comes out. And that portion is in your stomach. So when I take my medications, I use my gastric port, and I push them through, and it comes out right there. Pretty nifty. And then put that there. And then if I'm doing my feeds through my jejunal port, that stuff is going to come out at the very end of the tube, because that part is the part that is in my intestines. So I just hook up to the jejunal port, and when it is pumping through, it comes out of the end right there. And there are a couple different holes that it comes out, I guess, to prevent clogging, because sometimes formulas can be a little thick. So that's cool too. And yeah, that is how my particular tube works. Again, everybody has a different type of tube. Some people have a tube that only stays in your stomach. Some people have a tube going directly into your jejunum. Other people like me have the one that can do both. So yeah. So now I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my feeds every morning. A feed is just another word for my food or my formula. You just call it a feed. So I have to use a pump. This pump I basically just hook up my bag to, and it'll pump in the formula at a certain rate over a certain amount of time for me, so I don't have to do that by myself. And then I have my formula. I use Kate Farms Core Essentials chocolate, and I use 3 of them a day. I have my feed bag. This is where I put my feed into. And then I also have an extension tubing that I have to hook up to my tube directly. So, first thing first is I shake up all the formula. And open. And then I'm going to open my bag. So I use a new bag every day. These are pretty impossible to entirely clean out. So it would not be safe to use the same bag 2 days in a row. So one of these each day. This is what it looks like. And I usually just give a little blow to open it up a little better. And I just pour my formula. Alright, so all the formula is in. Now before I close up the bag, I like to try to get as much air as possible. I don't have to get every single air bubble out, but it just makes life easier with less air. So there is that. So then So then this part on the bag goes into my pump. So basically I just open the pump up, and then this loop wraps around this black part, and you pull to put it in place, and you basically just close the pump and then turn it on. Makes a lot of loud beeps. And then from this point, I'm just gonna take the cap off of the bottom part. And now I'm going to prime the tubing. What that means is I'm basically going to push all the air out of this tubing, so that way the air doesn't go into my body when I hook up. So I just like to use the pump to prime it. It's easier for me. And yeah, you'll be able to see it coming up. And yeah, so now the tubing is all primed and I'm ready to hook up, and I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And then lastly, I just put this into my backpack. Some people will use just an IV pole to hook their feeds on, but because I run my feeds all day long continuously, I'd rather just have it in a backpack so that way I can move around easier throughout the day. So I'm just going to stick it in. I have little hooks at the top to hang the bag so that way air doesn't get into the tubing. And yeah, there we go. Simple as that.